let me ask you something. Have you ever really thought about what's happening, legally when you go to buy something? We're about to jump in a time machine back to the 1870s to uncover this hidden legal rule that, believe it or not, controls almost every single purchase you make. It all kicked off with a business deal that went wrong, and in doing so, it accidentally wrote the rule book for our entire modern world of shopping.
Okay, so just imagine this. You're wandering around a store, you see the perfect thing, and you walk up and say, "I'll take it." Is that it? Is that a done deal? Have you just locked yourself into a legally binding contract? Well, the answer is not quite. And it all goes back to this really fascinating legal fight. To get to the bottom of this, we've got to look at the case that started it all. Chalmers versus Harding. And listen, this isn't just some dusty old case file. This is basically the origin story for the way we all buy and sell things today.
So, picture it, Victorian England. There's a company that's going out of business, and they need to sell off all their stuff. To do this, they put out what's called a tender, which is really just a formal way of saying, hey everyone, send us your best secret bid for all our assets.
So here's how it all went down. First, the company puts out an ad inviting people to bid. Now the wording here is absolutely key. The ad said they were prepared to receive tenders. So a guy named Mr. Chalmers submits a bid, and what do you know? It's the highest one. He's thinking, great, the stock is mine. But then the company just turns around and says, nope, we're not selling it to you. And that, right there, was the huge legal question. Was that advertisement a real promise, a formal offer, to sell to whoever had the highest bid? Chalmers definitely thought so, so he sued them. And the court's decision was about to change everything.
And this is where it gets really good. The court came up with this brilliant and super important distinction. It's the difference between actually making an offer and just inviting someone else to make one. This is the absolute heart of the whole thing. The court sided with the company. And this fantastic line from their ruling tells you exactly why. They said the ad wasn't a promise at all. It was a mere proclamation, just a shout-out that the company was ready to chaffer. That's a great old word for haggling or negotiating. So they weren't making an offer, they were inviting offers. And this is the fundamental difference. An offer is serious. It's like putting a signed contract on the table. If the other person says yes, bam, you've got a binding deal. But an invitation to treat is way more casual. It's just a sign on the door saying, hey, let's talk business. If you say yes to that, you haven't sealed a deal. You've just made the first offer.
Right, so think of an offer like the final move in a game. It's a clear statement. Here are my terms, ready to be accepted. The person making it has to be prepared for the whole thing to become legally binding the second someone else says, I accept. But an invitation to treat? That's just opening the door to the negotiation. It's the business saying, we're open for business. Come on in, look around, and make us an offer. They get to decide whether to accept or reject whatever offers come their way.
Okay, so how does this 150-year-old idea actually impact you today? Well, it turns out it's the invisible framework behind pretty much everything you buy. Let's run through a few examples.
All right, first one. You're in the supermarket. You see a can of soup on the shelf with a price tag. What is it? An offer or an invitation?
It's an invitation to treat. The store is simply inviting you to make an offer. When you bring that can of soup to the cashier, you are the one making the offer to buy it for that price. The cashier accepts your offer when they scan it.
Okay, what about an ad you see online showing a fancy new phone for, say, $500?
Yep, you got it. That's also an invitation to treat. The company is inviting you and probably millions of other people to make an offer to buy their phone. This way, they can say, sorry, we're out of stock, without getting sued by everyone who saw the ad.
All right, last one. What about an auctioneer standing up there and calling for an opening bid?
That's right, it's an invitation to treat. The auctioneer is inviting offers from the room. Every time you shout out a number, you're making a new offer. The contract is only made official when the auctioneer slams down the gavel. That's them accepting the highest offer.
So why does any of this matter? I mean, who cares about this little legal detail? Well, it turns out this distinction is incredibly important for making sure our whole economy runs smoothly. See, this rule creates a really important balance. It protects sellers from having to sell an item to every single person who sees their ad, especially if they run out. But it also protects you, the buyer. It lets you change your mind before you get to the checkout. It creates that one single clear moment, like scanning an item, where everybody agrees the deal is done. It's the invisible system that makes commerce work fairly for everybody.
So, if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Most of the time, when you see a price tag or an advertisement, you're not looking at a legally binding promise. You're just seeing the start of a conversation, an invitation to do business.
And that leaves us with one last little thought to chew on. What happens when an ad is so specific, so direct, that it really feels like a promise? Something like, the first 10 people through the door get this TV for just $1. Does that change the rules? Well, that's a whole other can of worms and a story for another time.